You wake up before the alarm. Not because you're rested, but because your body has learned that sleep is temporary when you're a trauma surgeon. The room is dark, quiet, and still for a moment. The kind of stillness that exists only before. The day begins demanding things from you. The clock beside the bed reads 4:41 a.m. Your alarm is set for 4:45, but it doesn't matter. You're already awake. The pager on your nightstand sits there silently, but its presence is enough. Even when it isn't buzzing, you're aware of it. At any moment, it could go off, and somewhere across the city, an ambulance would already be. Moving toward the hospital, you sit up slowly and rub your eyes. The exhaustion from yesterday hasn't completely left yet, but trauma medicine doesn't really allow time for perfect rest. You swing your feet onto the floor, and the cold wakes you the rest of the way. Coffee comes first. The kitchen light feels harsh at this hour. The city outside the window is still dark. Most people asleep, but the hospital never sleeps. You pour coffee into a travel mug and glance at your phone. Overnight messages from the hospital scroll across the screen. 2 trauma cases admitted. 1 patient in surgery. Emergency department preparing for a busy morning. Normal in trauma medicine simply means the chaos hasn't started yet. By 5:10 a.m., you're in the car. The streets are quiet, traffic lights blinking through empty intersections. The hospital building appears in the distance long before you reach it, its upper floors glowing with light. Inside those walls, hundreds of people are already working. You park and step out into the cool air, finishing the last sip of coffee before heading inside. Hospitals have a distinct atmosphere before sunrise. The hallways are quieter than they will be later, but the work is already happening. Nurses walk quickly between rooms. A janitor pushes a cart slowly down the corridor. Somewhere in the distance, a monitor beeps steadily. You change into scrubs. In the locker room, it's comfortable clothes designed for movement and long hours. The mirror shows a face that looks more awake than it feels. Morning briefing begins shortly after. The trauma team gathers around a table with charts and tablets. The overnight shift summarizes what happened while you slept. A fall victim from a construction site. A car accident patient with broken ribs. Both stable. For a moment, the room feels calm. Trauma surgeons know that calm never lasts. At 7:03 a.m., the emergency department radio crackles. Incoming trauma. Car accident. Multiple injuries. Arrival in 4 minutes. Everyone moves immediately. Gloves snap into place. Equipment is checked. The trauma bay lights seem brighter than the rest of the hospital, harsh and focused. Nurses prepare medication trays. Monitors are turned on. Someone rolls a cart full of surgical instruments. Closer to the bed, the ambulance doors slam open outside. Paramedics push the stretcher through the emergency room doors at speed. The patient arrives, surrounded by controlled urgency. The paramedics report injuries quickly while transferring the patient onto the trauma bed. Head injury. Internal bleeding suspected. Blood pressure dropping. The room becomes a blur of movement. Orders are given quickly. Blood tests, imaging, oxygen. Someone calls the operating room to prepare for surgery. Someone else checks vital signs again. Within minutes, the patient is moving again. This time down the hallway toward the CT scanner. The trauma bay falls quiet for a moment. Everyone exhales slightly. But no one relaxes. Trauma medicine runs on anticipation. You prepare for what might happen next. By mid-morning, the hospital is fully awake. The emergency department fills with patients and staff. Phones ring constantly. Stretchers move through corridors like small processions of urgency. The CT results confirm what you suspected. Internal bleeding surgery is necessary. The operating room is colder than the rest of the hospital. It's designed to keep everything sterile. Bright surgical lights hang above the table like miniature suns. The surgical team prepares quietly while the patient is moved into position. Time begins to work differently now. Surgery demands complete focus. Every movement matters. Every decision matters. The room is silent except for the steady beeping of monitors and the quiet voices of the surgical team. Outside the operating room, the hospital continues moving. Inside, everything slows down. Hours pass this way. Eventually, the surgery ends successfully. The bleeding is controlled. The patient is stable. The tension that filled the room slowly releases as gloves come off and masks are removed. It's early afternoon now. You grab lunch when there's a moment to breathe. In trauma medicine, lunch is rarely a real break. Today, it's a sandwich eaten quickly while reviewing patient charts. The emergency department radio crackles again. Construction accident, severe injuries, arrival in 6 minutes. The trauma bay fills once more with movement. A worker fell from scaffolding. Broken bones, possible spinal injury. The team works quickly again, repeating the rhythm you've practiced thousands of times. Assess injuries, stabilize the patient, decide the next step. Every trauma case is a puzzle that has to be solved quickly. By late afternoon, fatigue begins creeping in. Your feet ache from standing. Your shoulders feel tight from hours spent leaning over operating tables. But trauma surgeons don't measure days by comfort. They measure them by patience. Some cases end well. Some remain uncertain. Every patient carries their own story into the hospital with them. Evening approaches, the sunlight outside fades into a pale glow through the hospital windows. Visitors fill the hallways. Families sit in waiting rooms hoping for good news. Sometimes you deliver that news. Sometimes you don't. Those conversations are often the hardest part of the job. Explaining injuries, explaining recovery, explaining the things medicine can do, and the things it cannot. By 9:30 p.m., the night shift begins arriving. New doctors walk into the emergency department with fresh energy while the day shift begins winding down. You review patient updates with the night team. Most days would end here, but trauma medicine rarely follows schedules. At 10:12 p.m., the emergency radio erupts again. Multi-vehicle accident on the highway. Several patients inbound. The emergency department becomes alive again. Stretchers roll through the doors one after another. Nurses call out injuries. Doctors move between patients quickly. The trauma team divides responsibilities. One patient needs surgery immediately. Another is rushed into imaging. Another requires stabilization before anything else can happen. The hospital operates like a machine during moments like this. Every person knows exactly where to stand and what to do. By the time the situation settles down, it's close to midnight. The emergency department finally grows quiet again. You change out of scrubs in the locker room. Your body feels heavier now that the adrenaline has faded. Your shift officially ended hours ago. But trauma surgeons rarely leave exactly on time. Outside the hospital, the night air feels cooler. The parking lot is almost empty. Most of the city is asleep now, unaware of the long day that unfolded inside. Those walls. You sit in the car for a moment before starting the engine. Today was a good day by trauma medicine standards. Patients survived. Surgeries worked. The system held together. Tomorrow could be different. The pager sits quietly beside you again. At any moment it could buzz. And somewhere in the city, another ambulance might already be on its way.